Hi, and welcome to today's episode of pianoTV. So what we're going to do today is a two-part series. We are going to discuss the music of the Middle Ages. And we've talked about various music eras in history before. We've talked about the Baroque period, classical, romantic, impressionist. We've done modernism, we've done blues. There's a whole bunch of different videos like that. So if you enjoy this video and you want to know a little bit more about the history of music in different eras, definitely check those out. In this video and the next one, we are going to be talking about the music of the Middle Ages, what the climate of the Middle Ages was like, what music sounded like in the Middle Ages, and specific genres that were really key importance in the Middle Ages. We're also going to listen to a few audio examples so you can hear what it sounded like. So let's get started. There are three types of music we'll be looking at in this video series. We're going to be looking at sacred vocal music, secular vocal music, and instrumental music. The first video in this series will be dedicated to sacred vocal music, which is religious vocal music. And then the follow-up video, part 2, is going to discuss secular and instrumental music. Before we get into the music though, let's get a grip on the climate of the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages spanned approximately from 476 to 1450, generally considered to start around when the Roman Empire fell. And the Middle Ages is the period in between classical antiquity, think the Greeks and Romans, and the Renaissance, which was when science and art really started to blossom. In Europe, it was the Roman Catholic Church that held most of the power during this time, and because of that, they controlled much of music's development in the Middle Ages. And some other fun facts about the Middle Ages: lots of plagues, lots of war, violence, poverty, etc. They don't call it the Dark Ages for nothing. During the 1,000 years of the Middle Ages, music notation developed from virtually nothing to a primitive form of our modern sheet music. Music notation as we know it today completed its journey in the Renaissance and was completely fine-tuned by the Baroque period. But the Middle Ages is when it was born and developed. Middle Ages music originally had no rhythmic structure, but as the music slowly became more complex, there was a need for rhythmic unity, and with this complexity, rhythm started to be notated too, instead of just the pitches. So in the early Middle Ages, music was monophonic, meaning a single voice, a single melody line. However, as time passed, polyphony developed, and polyphony is really interesting. Polyphony is when there's multiple melodies happening at the same time, and this development eventually led to the highly complex polyphony of the Renaissance and eventually to the fugues of the Baroque period. Music at this time was modal, meaning it wasn't based in any key. There wasn't even any concept of key signatures until around the Baroque period. Musical modes are basically the early form of key signatures. So instead of saying this piece is in the key of D, you might say this piece is in Dorian mode. Gregorian chant is the most common type of plain chant, and it originated in Rome. Now, Gregorian chant is kind of like the brand name of plain chant. So it's kind of like how we refer to paper tissue as Kleenex instead of paper tissue. We say Gregorian chant for the most part instead of plain song. So what is plain chant or plain song? Well, it's basically exactly what it sounds like. It's plain in the sense that there's only one voice, it's monophonic, and it's a type of chant. This was the music that was used during Roman Catholic Church masses. Gregorian chant provides us with some of the earliest notated music ever, since the monks and nuns of the time were really good about writing things down. Pope Gregory the Great especially made an important contribution. He was the one who helped organize the giant body of chants that had accumulated during the Middle Ages. And this organization then led to specific chants being used at specific times of the year during Catholic Mass. Pope Gregory's contribution of plain chant was so important that they named it after him. Gregory equals Gregorian chant. What does Gregorian chant sound like? Well, we'll listen to an example in a moment so you can hear, but as we already talked about, it's monophonic, which means one voice only. It has no rhythm, so the melody is following the natural flow of the text as opposed to like having a specific rhythm. They are written in Latin and based on sacred texts like the Bible. They're fairly simple in the vocal patterns, so there's not going to be any like big leaps or jumps in the music here. It's pretty steady and stepwise. And there is some melismatic text, and that just means there's a whole bunch of different melody notes with just like a single syllable of text. So if you're saying the word high, you would sing high with like a whole bunch of melody notes for like 20 seconds before switching to a new syllable. The example of Gregorian chant we're going to listen to is, and I do not speak Latin, so I'm going to butcher this. It's called Universi qui te expectant, which is from the first Sunday Mass during Advent. Gregorian chant evolved into a genre called Organum in the 9th century. Now, since the Middle Ages was such a huge period of time, like 1,000 years, you have to understand that the monks and the nuns of the time period would just have inevitably gotten bored with their standard Gregorian chants and would have wanted to start improvising and playing around with the music a little bit more. Basically, these singing monks thought it would be a good idea to take their monophonic melody line and add different harmonies to it. So what they started with was adding 8 VA, 1 octave doubling. So this would sound exactly the same tune, but one pitch would be higher, one pitch would be lower. And then after that, they started adding fourths and fifths as a harmony, which is a very dissonant, odd sounding harmony. We don't use harmonies like that in modern music unless you're listening to some really, really abstract music. I don't have a good audio example of Organum for you to listen through, but if you go check out the blog, I'll link a YouTube video to it. But I do want to show you what the harmonies of an octave, fourth, and fifth sound like on the keyboard, just to give you an idea. So octaves, it's the same tone, it's just one's lower, one's higher. Whereas parallel fourths and fifths, those are fourths and fifths might be. They're very, very dissonant sounding. And this is called parallel organum. The notes move parallel to each other in the same direction. After the development of parallel organum, early forms of polyphony started to develop in Paris in the 12th and 13th centuries. Polyphony is basically when you have multiple melodies occurring simultaneously, but they don't follow each other. And we would refer to this during this era as free organum. So it was polyphony where the individual parts moved independently of each other. Free organum used original Gregorian chants as the cantus firmus, which just means like the fixed song. But it would often involve a new improvised part sung above the cantus firmus. Rhythm also developed alongside organum. Instead of rhythm being this completely unmeasured and random thing, rhythmic modes started developing. There still wasn't any sense of meter at this point, but there were various patterns of long and short rhythms, which added a little bit more structure to the music. Check out a recording of Hayek Diaz's organum version to hear what this is going to sound like. It's really melismatic, so there's like tons of notes on a single syllable, which make it tough to listen to. Not tough to listen to, but you can't really understand the text, and it also makes it difficult to sing, which we'll talk about a bit in a moment. You're also going to hear the original Gregorian chant as the low voice and the newly composed part in the higher voice. These voices move independently of each other, but they still mesh well. By the time we hit the 13th century, sacred music evolved into something that we call polytextual music. And that's exactly what it sounds like. Multiple texts for a single piece of music. And the reason this developed is because there was a lot of like crazy melismas. Basically, I've talked about melismas already, but when you have many, many notes with just one syllable, and it's really, really hard to sing like that. So they started adding a second text to these really intense upper parts full of melismas so that you could have more syllables and less notes to make it easier to sing and easier to understand. These polytextual motets often merge sacred and secular music. You'd start with your sacred Latin text, but perhaps you might, for example, stick a French poem on top of it. Because of this, polyphony grew even more detailed, and the melody lines, now usually in 3 parts, became even more independent. Though adding new text to the hard-to-sing melismas was really helpful for singers, it still didn't exactly solve the listening problem of being able to discern the specific words of what was being sung without having text in front of you. And this is a problem that would later be solved in the Renaissance, and we'll have to do a video on the music of the Renaissance at some point. I have not done that yet. I've got a video example for you to listen to over on the blog, not here. I couldn't find any music to share with you on screen, but the version on the blog is by Adam de la Hall, and check it out if you want to get a sense of different layering of different texts, what that sounds like. And that is all for part 1 of the music of the Middle Ages video, where we basically discussed in full sacred music. In the next video, we are going to talk about secular and instrumental music, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, please. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and you can go hang out with me over on social. You can check out the cards that will appear at the end of this video, and visit us on Patreon. Catch you later. So this was basically the singing. By the time we hit the 13th century, music